Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
The Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88-85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in a scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Once coaches get involved, of course, they've got their own opinions about what fits best for what they want to do, and that could be drastically different than what the scouts say.
Well, you're looking at traits, and remember when he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
One thing good about Kevin, he's been with two other organizations, as well as being the commissioner of the Big Ten. He's been around.
The Bears.
With Greg Olson, Jerry didn't want to get rid of him. I didn't want to get rid of him. Nobody wanted to get rid of him. One guy wanted to get rid of him, Mike Martz, because Mike Martz didn't know what the hell to do with him. We tried to talk Lovey out of hiring Mike Martz for a month and a half. He's playing zone, but number one, he doesn't get enough depth with the drop. But who the hell's giving? How many times does a 305, 310-pound defensive tackle drop into coverage, especially in a key situation?
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate. There's probably not as many real good quarterback evaluators as there needs to be.
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh episode of GTF. Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and just a quick note here. I went to the game yesterday, courtesy of Mr. Shorty over at Bears Country Productions, and got to sit next to Foster Covers. We had such a great time. I'll be talking about that more later in the week. And we're loaded with Bears content. And after the show at 3 p.m. Central, Mike North will be here live to give his evaluation of Caleb Williams. And I'm sure it will not be pretty. But let's see what the man of the hour has to say about it. Greg Gabriel, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. You already know what Mike's going to say. He's going to say, bring back Mitch.
Exactly. They had a good thing going. I don't understand.
Well, we thought you weren't going to freeze up. You just froze up there for about a second.
Well, it usually happens early in the show, and hopefully it'll go away now that we're both live. So
you were at the game. How'd you like the atmosphere?
The atmosphere was fantastic. I didn't like the boos, towards at halftime, but it's understandable, And I think I had a different take about it. I said to myself, because I don't usually want to boo, but I said this was very frustrating in the first half, and it's good to let the team know this isn't college football anymore, guys. Like Eddie Jackson said, this never happened at Alabama when I played there. Well, this is pro football. You're going to, you're paying $300 for a ticket. You're going to boo. So, but it was great. It was fantastic. Got chills at the beginning of the game during the introduction. And then after the game, the chills returned. It was fantastic, Greg.
Great. Glad you enjoyed it. It's Victory Monday.
Yes, it is. Cornelius Squalls called it Victory Formation Monday, and I love that. So what were your initial reactions to the win first, and then we'll get into details of how they got there.
Well, first, I'm going to back up a little bit only because it's Victory Monday. And at Hallis Hall, and it's a little different now. The configuration of Hallis Hall is so much different now than it was when I was there. Because just, and that new building, that's football ops.
Right.
I don't know if they still do this, but on every Monday, they had a catered meal, win or lose, during the season. And, hopefully we won because it was a real joyous occasion. It was a lot of fun to go to this meal. Some of the players were there, all the front office, all the employees in the building. Everybody worked in the building was there for lunch, and it was a good time. But when we lost, it was like going to a wake or something. Nobody said a word. There were down faces, people looking at the ground, snarly, all that type of shit. And So now I'm wondering if that tradition, and with the McCaskies there, I would hope so, but the building is just configured so much differently and separated so much differently than it was when I was there. I don't know if they still have it. It'd be nice to know if they do have it, because it was a lot of fun, especially when you win. Excuse me, when you win like they did yesterday, coming from a 17-0 deficit, that makes it even better.
It does indeed. There's no doubt about that. All right, so your reaction, really wherever you want to take this, but I thought we might start with your reaction to how the Bears pulled together as a team, complementary football, to win this game. What stood out to you?
Well, it says a lot about the players, number one, because they had to have that inner drive. Now let's go back to last year, where there was games like that and they lost. There's games they were ahead in the fourth quarter and they lost. So the inner drive of the players and the ability to keep the message at hand and play hard was there. Part of that's a tribute to the coaching staff. Flus called a good defensive game for the most part of the game. They had their way a little bit with the running game in the first half, more so in the second quarter. But after that, I mean, the second half, the defense totally dominated the game to the point it might have been the best defensive game I've seen a Bears defense play in a long time, maybe a few years anyway. 3 sacks, 3 caused turnovers, just outstanding on their part. And they came up big when they had to in the second half. So that part was outstanding. And new guys, that were new to the defense this year came up big, especially Taylor, who was just acquired less than 2 weeks ago, or about 2 weeks ago. So that part was good. The offense, work in progress, I'm going to say right now, did not shock me, did not surprise me in the slightest. This happens almost all the time when you got a rookie quarterback in the National Football League playing his first game. Now, because Brock Purdy played better his first game. Brock Purdy didn't play until like the 11th game of the year. So when you start a rookie in the very first game, season to open the season, generally, and you go back, and I purposely waited to write this. I wrote an article about it Friday in Windy City Gridiron. I don't know if you saw it, and I went back as far as Andrew Luck in 2012, who was first overall pick. There's some pretty good quarterbacks taken in there. None of them won in their first season. No, they all did. The second season, different story. If Trevor Lawrence got to the playoffs the second season. Now, I take that back. Andrew Luck got to the playoffs his first year, and Stroud got to the playoffs his first year. But Andrew Luck lost his first 2 games. So the Colts were 0-2 and then came on after that. So it's very, very difficult for a rookie quarterback, especially, I'll tell you, Denard Walker did a hell of a job.
Yes.
Calling the D. And I've known him a long time. He worked for us for 4 years, starting in 2008, worked in the pro department, and a really good guy. But he called a really super game. But his interior defensive line is a bitch. And, they had way with the Bears' interior offensive line. So, you got a lot of fans want to cut everybody on the interior offensive line. Sorry, guys, that's not the way it works. And, Coleman Shelton had a tough game. He's also going against a guy that's probably 80 pounds bigger. So, and I'm not making an excuse. In fact, the point of the matter is the Bears on offense played terrible, yet they still won the game because of the defense. But, last time I looked, there was an offense on the team, there's defense on the team, and there's special teams. It's all part of the team. And all got to contribute in a win. The offense didn't contribute that much. Special teams contributed big, and the defense contributed big. The offense will get better. I said, Andrew Luck lost his first 2 games. A lot of these guys, Trevor Lawrence won 4 games as a rookie, and then they went to the playoffs the next year. Joe Burrow won 4 or 5 games as a rookie. They went to a Super Bowl the second year. So I don't want to, people are down on Caleb today. It's ridiculous because this did not surprise me in the slightest. You were hoping it wouldn't happen, but I knew it very well could, and it did. He had a tough day. He was pressing. You could tell he was pressing throws that he normally hits blindfolded, like at some of those deep throws, because he's a very accurate deep ball thrower. He just didn't get it done yesterday. But I guarantee you that's going to get better.
Yeah, these are the overthrows here. This one to Keenan Allen. Man, and you're absolutely right. That's one that he usually does with a blindfold on. And then the next one, I forgot who this receiver is. That's number 11, DeAndre Carter, right? And the third one here, he fumbles the snap. It was a good snap too, and then he heaves it and overthrows. This really,
but
probably
I tell you, the play was 2 things about that play. If you can play that back,
sure.
It looked like Keenan Allen got hurt.
Oh yes, the way I have to unfortunately show the 2 previous plays, but the way he ran towards the wall, it did look like his ankle or something was a little
right. But the play where he fumbled the snap, I think was supposed to go to the left.
Oh, okay.
Quick throw to the left, and then the fumbled snap just screwed up everything. Right. So it was probably a good play.
Here it is. Here.
Yeah. See, it was right there. It was going to DJ.
Yeah, it was. He was wide open for that flat throw. And then watch him here. Left ankle. Yes. Oh my goodness. I hope he's going to be all right. And DJ,
we'll find. In fact, Flus will probably, have his presser today at an ungodly hour right in the middle of our show.
Well, I'm told that he might be on already. So,
well, if he is,
hasn't started yet.
I'll catch it. I'll catch it a little later.
Exactly.
All told, hey, I'm always going to take a win. I don't care, and if you're going to win ugly, and you won ugly offensively. See, too many people put too much credence into the offensive side of the ball. When you got the defense was dominant.
Yeah, right.
Dominant.
It really was. It was dominant. It was great to see that defense play at such a high level.
Here's what I'll tell you, Aldo, pissed me off. I'm listening to I had to turn off. I listened to some of the post-game show on ESPN. It's like I said, after we lose a game at the lunches at Hallis Hall, it was like I thought I was at a wake. All they were doing is bitching. I go, come on, they won the freaking game. They're talking about, the last year they only gave up 108 yards a game on rushing, and they gave up 140 in this game. So what?
Exactly.
And finding ways to nitpick. It's like, hey, it's a win. And it ain't easy to win in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm. We're getting some breaking news here. Courtney Cronin and somebody in the chat just direct me to this. Matt Eberflus said Rome Odunze will get an MRI on his knee today. He did not know exactly when it happened, but believed it was on a blocking play. Eberflus said it was brought up to him during the game. I don't have enough information there. We'll see on Wednesday.
Well, he was playing in the second half, I do believe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully it's not too bad.
Yeah. Geez, that would be awful news if he has to miss any time. And thank you. Who was it that?
They didn't say anything about Keenan Allen, right?
No, at least not yet. The press conference started just a couple of minutes ago, so we'll see if there's any more news. We'll monitor that as we're talking. Let's listen to Caleb Williams yesterday. Talk about, he was asked about his performance.
All these small moments that happened throughout the game that, felt like I was in the right place, the right time, and I would say I was seeing it well, just missed and misfired, and placing the ball where I wanted to. You complete a few of those. Dre down the sideline on the left sideline. They end up going cover zero. End up missing him on a different page and things like that. So I think that was the the name of the game for today for the offense has just not been on the same page passing wise. And then, run game, we'll be better. Obviously, it's great to get this first win. We're all excited. We went into the locker room, celebrated. I sat down, enjoyed the moment. And just watching all the guys celebrate, understand that I need to be better, I will be better, and then just taking in the first win. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he had a touchdown pass that unfortunately the veteran Keenan Allen did not squeeze. It was a perfect throw out to the sideline, and that's just as Eberflus, I think it was Eberflus or Brad Biggs in his column said, a veteran player has to make that catch.
Yeah, and you don't normally see that. You could go back and watch a tape of 150 catches of his, and you'll very rarely see him drop that pass. It happens, I think Caleb was on with J-Mac on the post-game show for a couple of minutes, and I didn't like everything he was saying there because I didn't think he took enough blame for some of the bad stuff. But later on, when he was talking in front of the media, he did.
Yes.
And I thought he did a really good job with that. He was humble. He took blame for what he should have took blame for. But at the same time, he's got a lot of self-confidence. And he's like, hey, it's going to get better. And I believe that. He's got the right mentality, I believe, to let this go by him. I'll tell you, it was funny because I read it. I didn't hear it. I guess, it said this is supposed to have been one of the toughest games you ever had. And then he brought up, well, I think when we played Cole Kmet, that team.
That was a great response. Yeah. When we played that team with the blue and gold that Cole Kmet played for, that was my toughest game. So he was honest about that. He was asked about the speed of the game, which is always, the question a rookie quarterback will get. This was his response.
I saw things well. I was a few passes that may have been dropped, may have been missed. I think it was just miscues, but speed of game wise, it didn't I would say affect or change much. I think the miscues made it look that way, but miscues, misfires, all these other things, a little bit of frustration for not executing, but other than that, no.
He's being candid there,
I thought
all on him.
That's a good answer, and he said it the right way. He believes that now when they go through the tape today, there may be things that don't forget he's not seeing everything. He's just going by memory when you're going at a presser right after a game. But now when you see the tape, he's going to see some things on the tape that he might not have seen on the field or whatever. Yeah. And that's how you learn. And I'm glad we're touching on this subject because I mentioned earlier, well, Brock Purdy came in like his 11th game and played. But in those first 10 games, he's seeing the tape of what's going on in the league and what to expect. And he's learning from those 10 games.
Right.
In Caleb's instance, he's literally going through it. So he's learning actually better because it's physically right in front of his eyes. But the point I'm trying to make is that whether you're playing or you're sitting watching the game and learning from watching the tape and being in practice or whatever, you're still getting wiser week after week after week. And you're going to see more things thrown at him. I'll tell you, Darnell threw a lot at him. And hats off to Darnell. He called a hell of a game. And that was another thing too. And again, I'm not making any kind of excuses. You went into a game against a head coach / offensive coordinator that's never called a game before. So you don't know exactly what he's going to do because you can't use preseason as a gauge.
Right.
Okay. And then you got a defensive coordinator who's never been a coordinator. And what you can go on is, okay, where's he been? Well, he's at Baltimore last year, so he might do similar to what Baltimore did. And he was at Philly the year before, and he might throw in some of that, but you're guessing. It's a total guessing game. And you got to make adjustments on the fly. Now, to Flus's credit, and probably Eric Washington too, they made adjustments. And Bigsy pointed out in his 10-point column this morning, what they adjusted on the defensive line is they went more to a wide 9 look because the Titans were running outside a lot. And the outside guys couldn't set the edge the way you want the edge set. Well, that didn't happen in the second half. And all it was just changing the alignment a little bit to make it more difficult to block those guys. So, I'm very positive by the game, not negative. Yeah, you want the offense to get better, but the offense is going to get better. There's not a doubt in my mind.
Right.
It would not surprise me, though. I mean, we'll see if there are 2 changes in the offensive line.
Okay.
As early as this week. Shelton did not play good. Now you go back and you watch Shelton with the Rams the last 2 years. He played pretty good. Now he probably played against, even though he's a rookie, the toughest, biggest, strongest guy, not necessarily the best, just from sheer size and power that he's going to play all year.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, like I said, that guy probably had 75, 80 pounds on him. After that, nobody on Houston's going to be like that. I mean, that was just, they were physically big and tough on their on the Tennessee interior defensive line, and they gave the Bears problems. But it wouldn't shock me if you see Bates at center this week and somebody else at guard.
Yeah, and bench Coleman. That's
and Davis too, because he got benched yesterday.
Yeah, I saw a couple of clips that people posted on X, and Velus Nate Davis just did not look good on a couple of plays. Now they were alternating with Bates, and I think what Eberflus is doing is just trying to get both of them some playing time because
both of them missed the whole most
exactly.
Of the
Exactly. You mentioned Brad Biggs writing that the Bears went to a wide 9, and that was interesting because a lot of times we don't see these corrections, as somebody in the chat room said, and this was a time where they made that correction at halftime and the defense performed better because the Titans were calling a lot of wide plays, they're running outside the tackles and stuff, as you said. And so, as Maddie says, I was shocked Bears adjusted on defense so well. So that is interesting to see. Are you usually of that mindset that you don't really have enough time to make adjustments at halftime and that can be over exaggerated, or do you think there are?
They could have done it earlier. We don't. You have to go back and look. Now I haven't because of I had new service getting hooked up this morning. I haven't watched the game yet.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't.
Okay. And yesterday I watched it on DirecTV, which I no longer have as of this morning. So I don't have a tape of the game. So I got to get it, from my NFL account, which I can do a little later today. But all the games I had taped from, last week before college football games and stuff.
That's all gone now, right?
Of preseason games. I'm kind of excited. Tough game. I went in, I think I've said this before, I wanted to go 2-2 in the first 4. And they've got 1. So that means 1 out of the next 2 or the next 3. And they're sitting pretty good after 4 games. Because I think this team is a team that's going to be getting better as they go forward. I think the matchups, offensive line versus the defense, are a little better, especially interior. Now, the edge guys on Houston, they're tough. They're going to be real tough. Yep. So the tackle's got to be ready to block on that. You got to have a plan for it. You might have to do some chipping with a running back or with a tight end in the game because you've got the caliber of a pass rush that Houston has.
Indeed. All right. I want to talk about Velus Jones because, it was unfortunate, and it breaks my heart to see him having these problems with his hands on kickoff returns. But that was a huge mishap there because Titans had just scored.
They got away with it because they only gave up 3.
Right. The Titans had just scored a touchdown, and then you're giving them back the ball immediately. And you're right. They only got 3, but that really set a bad, tempo for the entire first half in my mind. Would you agree with that? And what is Velus's future?
In all honesty, I think it was more of a bad vibe for the fans than it was for the team.
Okay.
Especially when the defense rose to the occasion and they didn't give up a touchdown. They only gave up 3. To me, that was a win for the team by only giving up 3. Because you got to look at the big picture. Look, I'm not going to stick up for Velus. He shot himself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nobody in that building that feels worse than he does.
That's right.
Okay, so now you got to – who knows what's going to happen in the future. But – you got to give the coaches credit. They took him out of doing that and put Khalil Herbert back there.
Mm-hmm.
But they still had specific plays for Velus in the game, and he did all right. He got 3 or 4 touches, and they were all decent gains. Yeah. So, I tweeted out right after that fumble. I go, Velus fucked up. They got and people. He should be cut tomorrow. He should be cut at halftime. Who knows what's going to happen, but I doubt it's going to happen.
Yeah. But, particularly with injuries play such a role in this team. I mean, the Bears could potentially be out 2 receivers. Perhaps Keenan Allen does have an ankle injury. Rome Odunze is undergoing an MRI. And we saw DJ Moore go to the tent at one point. It's potentially true that all 3 of those wide receivers might miss a game. And if that's the case, then you're going to see.
DJ went in and played after that too.
He did, but you know how sometimes that happens. The adrenaline gets you going. And we don't know why he went into the tent.
I'm not gonna go overboard though. And because the guy came back. And in fact, Rome came out and played, which tells me he didn't have an ACL because it would have been pretty tough to do.
Right.
Especially at his position, but we'll see. He's got something. There was probably soreness and swelling.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just a thing where he misses a few days this week. Hopefully, you seldom. I played in a lot of football games. Mondays are tough. You feel like shit, man. Not too bad Sunday.
Yeah.
You wake up Monday and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What truck hit me? And
exactly.
I was a skinny little white running back, so I got my ass kicked a lot,
Mm-hmm. But my point regarding Velus is that he could be of help with injuries at running back, wide receiver, what have you, down the line. And that's why you don't give up on a player like that unless somebody that you are absolutely sure is available via waivers. And that's rarely. You got
Colin Johnson on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually keep 5 or 6 wide receivers. They went with 5.
Right.
Okay. Right. So that you got to figure if there's some injuries there, if somebody's coming up. Now, then you look at Pettis was put on IR and they did an injury settlement. So now he's on the street.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't come back this week. He's got to sit out 3 weeks because that's how long the injury settlement was. Okay. 1 week has gone by. That's Sunday's game count. So he's got to sit out 2 more weeks. I know one team's interested and they want to bring him in. And that's the same team that called and asked about Velus because the same guy asked me about Pettis.
Yeah.
And send me a text. So, and they're right now they feel their depth at that position is weak. So they're looking for guys.
Yeah.
Well,
I made Foster, the guy I was with at the game yesterday, Foster. I made the point of the Bears got a call regarding Velus to see if he was still available for a trade, and Foster said, "Well, they get that call again. What what you're going to hear is click. Nobody's going to want to trade for Velus after what he did yesterday. That was the funniest line I heard all day. So a nice shot Foster covers. All right, let me get back to the quarterback. This is Flus talking about Caleb.
I told the guys this many weeks ago. We need to play well around Caleb, and we got to continue to do that. So we're going to look at everything there in terms of the operation. I thought the operation was good. I know we had one delay. But again, he's got to keep getting better every single week.
And I think that's a great point there because the offensive line has to play better. The veteran wide receiver has to catch that touchdown pass.
Right.
Other things have to happen to give Caleb the opportunity to shine early on. He's not going to do it by himself.
There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a lot of overreaction by the fan base
mm-hmm.
to the offense. To me, this was going to happen, and and you know what? You want it to happen now because you want. George McCaskey said, "Yeah, I'm excited. Gonna be some tough sledding." And it's true. And part of the problem was the media hype and the media buildup. So you had too many people thinking he was going to throw for 250 to 300 in that first game. That very rarely happens in the National Football League for a rookie. Most of them stink.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Aikman, I think, not Troy Aikman. I know Peyton Manning threw like 29 interceptions as a rookie. Troy Aikman was right around that same area. So, and that was a little bit different era, and they didn't throw as many. Hell, if they threw as many passes as they do now, they might have thrown 40 picks.
Yeah.
But it's you've got to go through the growing pains, and it's on Caleb to have thick skin, to know he's going to make mistakes, to work with the coaching staff, to help him work through those mistakes and move forward. And hopefully next week's a little bit better than this week. Like I said, I think the matchups on defense are a little better off our offense versus their defense than they were yesterday. So that part could help. And the same thing when they play the Colts in 2 weeks. I think the matchups are a little bit better. You're not going to have that drastic interior line matchup problem like they had yesterday.
Yeah. PZ asked a question. What about Everett getting more snaps than Kmet? Could that have to do with the fact that Waldron is familiar with Everett's play from Everett's play with the Rams? What were your thoughts on that?
No thoughts, and I haven't even looked at the snap count. But I know that they were playing with they did play some 12 position formation, but there's a lot of three wides. I mean, playing with one tight end, and it was how they were going to use the tight end and who fits what they're doing better,
right,
for that particular play. Excuse me. Some people were complaining about the play calling. To me, it wasn't the play calling; it's the execution. It's not.
I agree.
You hit some of those plays, and there's not a problem with the play calling, and part of that's on Caleb. And like you say, the media's got to roll back on the hype, and they got to roll back on the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Let a rookie be a rookie. How many times have we said this over the 4 years we've been doing this? You got to let rookies be rookies.
Yep.
He's going to be fine. They're going to have a good team. They're probably going to have a winning record. They may, it depends what everybody else does. They may or may not be in contention for the playoffs. I'd much rather be coming off a poor offensive game and a strong defensive game than be in Green Bay, who just lost their quarterback for maybe up to 6 weeks.
Yeah, indeed.
And they ain't got anybody behind him.
Yeah. This is the shot of him, his knee.
Yep.
It seemed to pop right there. So
Yeah.
I got a feeling they're not telling us everything about that. What happened?
And I've seen guys with MCLs like in training camp. It's usually 4 weeks that they're out. So that's game one. So I think best case scenario is he misses the next 3, and it's probably more like the next 4.
Yeah.
And he's back game 5. Well, you know what? They got some tough games. I saw Peter Bukowski, everybody's favorite Green Bay enemy. Oh, these are all favorable matchups. We should be good. And then he's thinking, he's putting out there, well, they can sign Tannehill. He knows the offense. So I sent him a DM. So it's private. I go, Peter, Tannehill does not know this offense. And he goes, well, yeah, Arthur Smith runs the same offense. I go, no, he doesn't. Arthur Smith worked for LaFleur in Tennessee, and then when LaFleur left to go to Green Bay, he ran his own offense. Go ask Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Because Getsy runs LaFleur's offense.
Yes. I'm glad you told him that. Heckler wants to know,
they don't have Tannehill. I mean, he was
right.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter. They got a guy that they just traded for a week and a half ago who actually I think played for Arthur Smith too. So, who knows? I just think that they're going to they could be out of it before that guy comes back.
Quite possible. Heckler wants to know when is it it's gonna be the typical route of learning where a run first, set up the pass offense by week 6 this year. And what do you think about that?
You know what? It's a good initial evaluation or whatever analysis. Reality was Tennessee went in there to stop the run.
Yeah.
They took it away. They were making him throw, and they were going to rush in such a way, and you saw it, that Caleb couldn't get outside the pocket.
Exactly.
Okay, so again, hats off to Darnell Walker.
Right.
I was really, Big Z was too. He said it. He goes, don't be surprised to see him getting head coaching interviews pretty soon. Just based on what he did yesterday, if that continues. First of all, he's a great guy. And he's a real smart guy.
Hey, Greg, you've been calling him Darnell Walker, but it's
Darnell Wilson. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm sorry. So I interrupted your thought there. You want to finish it?
No, he's a great guy. He's a very smart guy. He was fun to be around, and he is going to, he's going to be looked upon by the end of the year, I think. As I think that defense is just going to get better. He's going to be looked upon as one of the better coordinators, at least in the AFC and maybe in the game by the end of the year, which means he's going to get some looks as a head coach. Now, as a first-year coordinator, it's pretty tough to go first-year coordinator into a head coaching job. But, he might not be that far away. The guy at who's in Seattle now, who was at Baltimore last year, he's a 1-year NFL coordinator, but he was a coordinator at the University of Michigan for a couple of years. He was at Baltimore under Wink Martindale, went to Michigan. The Harbaugh brothers did a trade, and he goes to Michigan to be the coordinator, and then comes back when Wink got let go and goes up to the Giants. He comes back to be the coordinator for the Ravens, and then after 1 year, he gets a Seattle job. So it's not that it can't happen with Wilson, but it's probably a long stretch, long shot.
Let's talk a little bit about the acquisition, who had a great debut with the Chicago Bears, and that is Darrell Taylor. This was Flus on Darrell Taylor.
Energy. He is straight energy. He brings it every single day. I love his passion, and he fits in right with our guys, and it was great.
Greg, you talked about him last week and said this guy's going to help this team. You were absolutely right.
Well, you just watch what he could do. He was really in the scheme that Seattle went to, which was really a 3-4, and they're playing similar to that last year. He was on his feet, And he was actually playing on his feet most of the time when he was in there yesterday. He probably enjoys that. But he still had to play it like more as an outside linebacker than a defensive end. And you're asking him to do separate things. And, what you're asking the defensive ends to do in this defense is set the edge, get upfield, and put pressure on the quarterback. And he had to do different things in Seattle. There's fans there. I got a lot of abuse from Seattle fans after that trade because I stuck up for him because you looked at what he could do good and what he could do for Chicago. And so, of course, I had to throw it back at him yesterday. And I had bookmarked some tweets and sent back tweets yesterday. I go, yeah, he couldn't play, could he? 8 tackles, 2 sacks, caused fumble. None of those guys replied. I wonder why.
But was there somebody that you had a fight with recently on X that upset you, or because I noticed that your account, you've changed your account now that people can't resend your post. You've closed it off.
There's a guy I forgot to check. I'll do it right now. I'll start talking. It'll take me a second.
Well, let's see. While I am talking here, I wanted to see if I had another roll-in to share, but I don't. Let's see what people in the chat are saying. It was Victory Formation Monday from Cornelius. Thanks very much. Are they going to cut Velus? He's a waste of a roster spot. We've talked about that, King Pookie Nation. Did you find it? What'd you do? Block him?
No. I just went back to open it. Okay. No, there's a guy. I tweeted out. I go, hey, history shows quarterbacks struggle, and he's trying to come up with the one guy. Well, Cam Newton did. Yeah, fuck what Cam Newton did. That was 15 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it occasionally a rookie will have a good game, but the preponderance of the evidence is that they usually don't play as well as they ultimately play. And the names you already mentioned.
He's going to have some big games. I was saying, opening game, and you look yesterday. When I tweeted out 3 first-round quarterbacks from this year started yesterday. None of them played good. Yeah. Only one won, and that was Caleb.
Yeah, indeed. Heckler says maybe Williams is the first quarterback of ours that the Steelers don't end up with after 2 or 3 years. Did you see any of that Steelers game?
Justin, he was a game manager in that game.
Yeah,
they played a conservative type game. They all field goals, but I think he completed like 60-something% of his passes, 158, 160 yards. I didn't look at the final numbers, but I think he had like a 90 pass rating or something like that. He played well.
Yes, he did. There's no doubt about
it. He didn't throw any interceptions. Right. See, I think he'll be starting again next week, regardless of what Wilson availability is.
Yeah, you got to go with the hot hand, and I haven't seen a lot of extensive replays, but I did see somebody posted a beautiful pass Fields threw down the left sideline that was right on the money for an explosive play, 20, 30 yards or something like that.
That was to Pickens, I think.
Yeah, that's a good combination. That could be a really good combination. Yep. All right, let's focus a little bit more on the defense. They came up with 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter, and that was just huge. The first one was the strip sack by Darrell Taylor. He is really something special, isn't he? I mean,
look, you want to see straight. Look how long his arms are when you go back there.
Yeah, let me go one more time here. Yes, and he's walking off nonchalantly.
So he had to lean there. He did that. That was no one made that play. Look how long those arms are. That's what made.
He looks like Alonzo Spellman.
and so. People, what are you worried about length for? That's why you want length. That play right there.
Indeed. Absolutely. So excellent stuff. And then the second, here's what, those are long arms there. Look at that, man. I love that. What a play. The second turnover was this play, pressure, and Levis makes the dumbest throw of perhaps his life.
Oh, my God. Tyreek Stevens would go like, wow, thank you, man.
Yeah.
That was like an early Christmas present.
Yeah. Kyler Gordon on the blitz there, and Demarcus Walker, I accidentally said Montez Sweat when I posted it on Twitter, but it's Demarcus Walker and Kyler Gordon putting pressure on Levis, and that forced that throw. And then the final one is the last offensive play for the Titans. Montez Sweat comes in over the middle, pressures Levis, and he just throws it up for grabs. And
play that one back. That was Sweat in the middle?
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's no,
Sweat's on the outside there, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my bad.
Somebody coming up from the middle. I'll tell you, who played a hell of a game in the middle?
Who's that?
Big Bill.
Big Bill.
Holy shit. And you notice they, because I looked for it right away. Mm-hmm. Were they going to continue with that left tackle, right tackle versus one technique, three? They were the left tackle, right tackle. So depending on the formation, both guys play both positions. And I think that helps. In fact, when he was playing the three is when he was getting the pressures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I have said this before that I think Eric Washington is going to be the biggest addition for this Bears defense during the offseason. What he can come up with schemes and his teaching on pass rushing and so forth is invaluable. And now, this has gone from a team that had suspect pass rushing to a team that potentially could have a lot of depth in the pass rushing. We didn't see Austin Booker get many snaps, but he's going to continue to learn.
I don't know if Boston got any snaps from that's why I got to go back and look. I know he played on specials, but I don't know if he got any snaps on the down. Because Hardy did. Hardy and Taylor were the outside rotational guys. Walker moved inside to tackle sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The new guy, what's his name? 91 Martin. He played, but he probably played 15 snaps or something. But he made a couple plays.
Yeah,
it was around the ball.
Swifty says Booker had a few snaps and he was run at. I thought Big C mentioned that in his column. Josh Brown points out that Jervon Dexter had a nice quiet game, 3 pressures and a sack. Yeah, it wasn't all that quiet, Josh. He did he could go unnoticed, but that sack was very noticeable.
He was exactly what you were looking for coming out in the first game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this defense is the nucleus of this football team. If they can show up on Monday Night Football and play a hell of a game against
Sunday Night Football, isn't it?
Sunday night. You're absolutely right. Sunday Night Football and play a hell of a game against C.J. Stroud and those speedy wide receivers they have. They could come away with a victory. I know it's hard to fathom. I've predicted the Bears to lose on Monday or Sunday Night Football against the Texans, but who knows? What are your thoughts about this upcoming game?
Well, I didn't watch any of the Colts game. I didn't watch any of the games,
right?
Other than the Bears game. The Colts gave them all they could handle.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tight game, and when you look at the Colts quarterback situation, Richardson, for all intents and purposes, is a rookie.
Yeah.
He got hurt after the second game. Now he's learned. He's had a year to sit and learn, but he didn't play, and he didn't get any practice time either. At least the guys who were sitting and learning get practice time. He got no practice time, so it was all mental. And he did some things against him and so against the Texans. So. That's got to help. That game film will help the Bears in prep. I don't think, the Hall of Fame game will mean much because no starters played in that game.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears backups beat the Texans backups in a short game. So if they would have played a full game, who knows what would have happened. But, the backups clearly outplayed them. But, you got to pressure Stroud. Got to. No question about it. And the secondary's really got to play good. Now, Brisker, for a guy who, talking about the secondary, Brisker, who played only a few snaps in the preseason and missed a lot of practice time. Fuck, he had a hell of a game.
He did indeed. Played very well.
And then when Owens got his touchdown, I was looking, for a camera shot of his wife.
Yeah, where was she?
Come on. Kansas City, they always got Swifty on there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, all the time. Although I only saw her once.
Come on, where's the gold medal winner?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that, Hightower seems to really be becoming one of the best special teams coordinators in the league. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he's in the group. I think Tobe is head and shoulders above everybody.
Yeah,
there's Tobe, and then there's the rest. The punt, they had some good returns now, kickoff and punt.
Mm-hmm.
Which was good, and the kickoff coverage was pretty darn good.
Yes.
They had one punt return. They gave up one punt return on a longer punt that was a little too much, and I don't think he got enough. Taylor got enough hang time on that one, or he might have just outkicked the coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, his kicking was good. Really, the only negative to me in the game was the offense didn't do what you were hoping that it would do, and I'm just, I'm going to sound like a broken record. It doesn't surprise me.
The one thing about Hightower that could become a blemish. Now, we saw this on Hard Knocks where Hightower came to his defense and said, yeah, he can do everything. Now, I do believe that when the negatives about Velus Jones were presented, Hard Knocks cut that stuff out. Probably McCaskey said, no, I don't want any of that negative stuff about Velus being put in. And so
in all honesty,
mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen a Hard Knocks show where they've let the negatives in.
Yeah, probably
right. They don't want to throw a player under the bus.
Yeah. Especially if they're not cutting him. If they're cutting him, then you might hear.
Well, let's go back. So they're talking about the players, and this was just Poles, Flus, Ian Cunningham, and I think Feinstein was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, you get a draft pick, you get a fourth. And he said, and that's great value for him. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, but it's not great value, meaning for the team. So they, before yesterday, they still
mm-hmm.
thought a lot of them.
Yeah.
And not just Hightower, the running back coach was high on him too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
very high on him. Yeah.
Yes. So, the fans want to throw them in the dumpster and start the dumpster on fire. I get it.
Yeah.
Could it happen? We can't sit here and say it's not going to happen. I just would be surprised based on what we've seen and what we've heard.
Right. I'd be surprised if it happened this early, but we'll see. You will definitely see. One of the things that I wanted to bring up regarding Caleb Williams is I saw someone write about that Caleb reverted back to his USC days where he wasn't playing in tempo and he was trying to make big plays happen by getting out of the pocket and so forth. And that's when he ran into problems because the Texans were making sure that he would stay in the pocket and force him to play quarterback, as people would say about Justin Fields. You agree with that assessment?
Well, that's what he does, is make plays on the run.
Yeah.
It's what he's done his whole career, be it college, career in the NFL is he did do it on scrambles in the preseason a few times. Mm-hmm. So, you can't take his game away from him. That's part of what makes him who he is. I think that he was pressing a little probably put a little bit too much pressure on himself. Some things didn't click, and then that pressure got a little greater within his own head. And, you know, he now, I don't want to say he needed to be humbled, because I don't think he needed to be humbled. He needed to go through that, though.
Yeah.
And it's better. The earlier it happens, the better. Go back to Justin's first game, and everybody wanted to blame the and that wasn't until the third or fourth game of the year in Cleveland. And look what a disaster that was.
Yeah. You know, I made a video for Buffon 55, and in that video, I said that the Poles still has issues to address, and that one of them is that you need some Pro Bowl caliber players on that offensive line. Nobody played anywhere near Pro Bowl caliber on the offensive line in Caleb's debut yesterday. I thought that was part of the big problem that Caleb faced, is he had a lot of people in his face. And then when you get, as we mentioned a couple of times already, you get a veteran like Keenan Allen dropping a short touchdown pass, that doesn't help.
And part of it is the defensive game plan that the Titans had. They did some overload stuff, so they had guys coming free. You know, hey, it was a hell of a plan. And it was, and I think it's fair to say the Bears weren't ready for all that, but in fairness, and not to be critical about it, is how could they? Because of what we said before. This is the first game people have on tape of what Wilson and the Titans are going to do with the defense.
Yeah.
You know, so you had nothing before that. Like I said, you had to guess. You had to go back to Baltimore because you didn't know how he wanted to run things.
Yes. Yeah, Badass says Jenkins was my biggest disappointment. I saw a couple of plays where Jenkins was just overwhelmed by Sweat, that big nose tackle. He just,
like I said, I haven't rewatched the game yet, so I don't know. If that's the case, and like we said, he's got to come out, play good, and stay healthy in order. And, you know, and I thought that had Amagaji been able to play in the preseason, he would have worked his way into at least pushing for a starting position at one of the guard spots.
Yeah.
He got no snaps, so who knows? And he wasn't dressed yesterday, which you had to figure that was going to be the case. So, are they going to, if this continues, are they going to kind of accelerate the learning process?
Yep. Well, a lot of people switching subjects here have been mentioning the Rome Odunze MRI situation, and we don't have anything to add on that other than what was reported by
he was hurt.
And as Greg pointed out, we probably won't learn anything more until Wednesday when the MRI results are probably
unless it's really bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, it will probably get a vague analysis of the situation on Wednesday, which is the next time Eberflus meets with the media, if I recall correctly.
If it's really bad and he's got to go down on IR, and they either got to go out and try to, bring somebody up, they could. You're going to know that, you know. So, I think if it's in that gray area, you're not going to know much.
Yeah. Okay, see, Bear Boy says, what was the deal with Nate Davis? Yeah, Nate Davis was alternating with Ryan Bates at the right guard position, and neither one of them played very well. So hopefully that will get rectified by next week. We'll see. As Greg said earlier, we'll probably be seeing some changes on the offensive line. What are you speculating we might see from left to right?
Wouldn't shock me if Bates is at center and somebody else is at right guard.
Yeah.
Who that somebody else is, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a shame that Amagaji missed the entire preseason, because that could have been, it could have helped provide some answers to this offensive line. And but I don't think anyone should panic. There's potential solutions on the roster. We just got to wait for guys to get healthy. And let's remember, Nate Davis.
I'm going to go back. They played. It was a tough matchup for them.
Mm-hmm.
A physical matchup. When you go to basketball, there's some teams that are great teams, but they don't match up very well against a certain team.
Right.
Right. And it's this was a case where the Bears offensive line doesn't match up good against the Tennessee interior defensive line. I don't think the Tennessee edge guys really gave him much problem. It was the interior guys.
Right.
And could it be better with the same group next week because you don't have that same kind of matchup? Yeah, could be.
Right.
But it also wouldn't surprise me if they make a change or two.
Yeah, definitely. We've talked special teams, we've talked defense, we've talked offense. Let's talk a little bit about, I know the little that you saw of the rest of the NFL. Were you surprised at all? Did you see any of the Lions-Rams game last night?
I saw the first half,
yeah,
and then I had my iPad on
mm-hmm.
in bed to watch the second half, and I woke up. I woke up when the Rams took the lead, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up and Detroit had won. So I was hoping the Rams were going to win, because then I was going to say, well, the two teams that were supposed to be on the bottom are on the top, and the two teams
mm-hmm.
that were supposed to be on the top are on the bottom.
Yeah,
but I couldn't do that, even though I just did it anyway.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I was dead tired after being at the game, and so I fell asleep before halftime, and then woke up right when it was going into overtime. I get to at least see how this game.
Yeah, I didn't see a down of the overtime.
Yeah,
and I don't know how much time was left. I know the Rams scored,
mm-hmm.
and there might have been a few minutes left, but obviously Detroit came back and scored, and they go into overtime. So,
yeah, I will say this based on what I saw, and I know Don Burr, who's a Lions fan, he's in the chat, and he will definitely agree with this. Is I think the Detroit Lions might have the best offensive line in the NFL. Now, I haven't done a study on it, but if it's not the best, it definitely is one of the
better
best
ones.
Yeah, for sure. And but frankly, they had so many scoring opportunities. I was surprised they had only 20 points at the end of the game. So I think Lions fans should be a little perturbed by the fact that it was such a close game by the end of regulation. I mean, it was a tie game. They should have blown them out with the energy that was in that building. But
that you go back to the first series,
mm-hmm.
both defenses dominated the opening series.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Rams came out and had a pretty good drive, and Stafford then got sacked for about 15 yards and really took them back. I think they still got a field goal out of it, but then I started to get drowsy, and I wasn't watching as closely as I was after that. But the Rams are going to be a good team because they're well coached.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have the talent that they've had in past years.
Yeah, right. Still a bit in that rebuilding when they basically sold the farm in order to get to the Super Bowl, and they did, and they won. So now they're going through an expedited.
You got to pay the price.
Yeah, indeed. Did you see any of that Packer-Eagle game in Brazil?
Most of it, and I thought the Eagles were going to win that game. I was hoping the Eagles were going to win that game. Mm-hmm. I was disappointed in the Eagles' defense with
mm-hmm.
Fangio. People say, and I tweeted it out, and people took exception to it. I said, hey, they gave up 410 yards.
Yeah.
Over 7 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That isn't a Vic Fangio defense.
Exactly.
So don't give me don't. And one was Joe Banner. Joe goes, I disagree. I said, Joe, you're being a Philly fan there. Which he is, and because Fangio's got he does do some bend, but don't break. But that was a shitload of yards they gave up.
Yeah. And the thing with Fangio is that he clearly helped to change defenses in the NFL. He came up with this basic umbrella cover defense that a lot of teams in the NFL have emulated. But also some offenses are just catching up with it. They've learned, get the ball underneath and get yards after the catch, or rely more on the running game.
It's always a chess game.
It's always a chess game.
And it's a chess game, and wherever somebody's got an advantage, somebody else is going to work to take that advantage and get their own advantage.
Right. And so now the ball is in Fangio's court. He's got to find some adjustments because teams have figured out a little bit how to attack his defense. All right. Let's get a few questions out of the way here before we end this episode of Gabriel Talks Football. And by the way, help us out here. I want you all to do this. Hit that like button, hit that bell, make sure you subscribe, and share the program with others. That will truly be appreciated by Greg and myself. All right, send in your final questions here. Let's attack what we've got going on here. Siran says, Greg, can you talk about what a scout looks for when scouting kick returners? It seems like a very special skill that the Bears are having trouble getting right, also known as Velus Jones.
Well, just because the guy's a good punt returner doesn't make him a good kick returner. It's really two separate skill sets. The flight of the ball is different. Most kickoffs are end over end. Most punts are spiral. The punts are a lot higher. So you got to, for a punt returner, he's got to have the ability to, number one, judge the ball and track the ball. And then his next most important trait, and it really is after he catches the ball, is make the first guy miss. Okay. Where the kickoff returner is not necessarily elusiveness, it's speed, power. Now, you got a new kickoff rule now, so that could change exactly what you're looking for. But before, you're looking for a guy who can hit that crease, hit it hard, and then have the vision to break off from that and find the open lane. So it's a totally different skill set than you use for a punt returner. And that's why a lot of, there's very few that do the same. Devin Hester was a rarity, and that's one of the reasons he's in the Hall of Fame. Velus has the right run skill set. It's with both punts and kickoffs. That wasn't a hard kick to handle yesterday, and I got to watch it exactly what happened, but he ends up kicking it with his foot right to their guy. So, but I guess the first thing I want you to do is, did I answer it the way you wanted it answered? Or do you need more? Because then we're here, and if you need more, type it in. I'll answer more. Indeed.
Let's get back to your own personal history. You drafted one of the absolute best returner in history, just went into the Hall of Fame. When you saw Devin Hester in your college tape, what really stood out? Was it the speed? Was it the way he saw holes open up? That little, hesitation before taking off? What was it?
Instincts and that ability. Well, again, he had traits to do both, and that in the punt game he judged the ball really well, or tracked the ball really well. He could easily make the first man miss. We saw that happen all the time, and part of that is instincts. But he ran kickoffs a different way. You know, he didn't return kickoffs the same way he returned punts. He could hit the crease real hard like you're supposed to. So, you know, and I asked Devin, I go, what, and this goes way, way back. And I think I've said this before on here is, you know, I said, what are you thinking or what goes through your mind when you got the ball in your hand? And he said, I don't know how to explain it, but it seems like everybody's in slow motion but me.
That's
and
amazing.
To me, that was like he was just describing instincts.
Yeah.
That he had, with the ball in his hand, he had rare instincts.
It's, you know, it's remarkable how many times you hear that from the greats. Like, I'll remember Wayne Gretzky saying something very similar, you know, and Larry Bird, these guys with great peripheral vision. And I think that's part of the answer. The game slows down when you have great peripheral vision, in my opinion. Now, I've never had that experience in the sandlot the ball that I shared with my friends at the game.
You know what's funny about Larry Bird, and I've met Larry Bird a few times because a good friend of mine worked for the Celtics, is when you look at him as an athlete, that was a terrible athlete.
Oh my goodness, yes.
You know, and you know, the movie White Men Can't Jump. Well, he could have been the star because he might jump this out.
That's right. That's right.
He was his hand-eye coordination, his ability to see the court. And I say he wasn't a good athlete, but he had exceptional quickness because he just thought so quickly that he always made the right move. But he couldn't, you know, one of the big traits you look for in basketball is you know, jumping ability. He couldn't jump. He could shoot the lights out of the ball, though.
Yeah.
And somebody could, you know, be all over him and he's still going to make it. And it's the same thing that guy, what's his name, from Croatia who plays.
Luka Doncic.
Yeah, he's the same way. I mean, you know, not a great athlete necessarily. It doesn't look like one, but you know, he can do some great things with the ball in his hand.
Yeah, it's a great mixture of, you know, the will to win and the will to excel and having peripheral
Making
vision.
the most out of your own ability, too.
Yes, indeed. Everyone wants to know, are the days of Velus Jr. At wide receiver, are those days over? And she wants to know why.
I don't think so. I think they look at Velus as a gadget.
Yeah. Just how he should be looked at. Throw him some wide receiver screens and let him go out.
You know, how about this? He started the second half at running back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
He ran the first, but he got about 8 yards running to the left.
Tareen wants to know what all Chicago Bears fans want to know. Why is offense so hard for the Bears? No matter what year or decade, it's always a major struggle. That is kind of our brand.
I get what you're saying, but I think in this case, you just got to be patient. Like you say, it would have been great if you saw something different, but the odds were really stacked against it being a whole lot different than it was. I just like, you know, he wasn't damaged by it.
Right. Yes,
you know?
Exactly. Yes.
And today it's even going to be better because now he'll see that, and he might have seen the tape last night because that stuff's instantaneous now. And he's got the Surface Pad and he can go through it and see what he did, what he didn't do exactly. But today it's with the coaching staff and you know, they're going to say, hey, you know, like for instance, there could be somebody open that he didn't see or whatever. And then when you see it on tape, then theoretically the next time you call that play, you should be looking for that.
Yeah. Flex is asking me, would I let Velus carry my grandchild? Absolutely not. The guy killed his ferret. If you kill your ferret, I am not.
Depends how old your grandchild is.
Yeah, exactly. Calvin wants to know.
If it's an infant, you don't want him to drop the infant.
Exactly. Calvin wants to know, you think the Bears have a top 5 defense? Of course, it's too early to tell, but what do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Heckler wants to know, what is the best team in the NFC North? He corrected this by saying North. Best team in the division, the NFC North in football this year. Is it the Bears?
Today in their division?
Yeah.
Or and wait a minute. So what's that? Does it say the best division in the NFC?
Yeah, no, he corrected. What is the best team in the NFC North?
Detroit right now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's
until
true.
you beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And you went 1-1 against them last year, and you should have gone 2-0.
Yeah.
So until you beat them, they're better. Same thing. Until you beat Green Bay, they're better. And so, but I think, Green Bay without Love and with their backup quarterback only being on the house for a week, they're going to be hurting a little bit.
Yeah. How do you work with a guy who has lost his confidence, like Velus Jones clearly has lost confidence with returning kicks? I mean, that's just
we got to put this in the right frame of word usage.
Okay.
It's not returning kicks. It's catching the frickin' ball. It's cracking the ball.
That's a very good
Once
point.
he gets the ball in his hands, it's a different story.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. All right. A few more questions here. Too early to tell Mr. Englewood what Greg's offensive line grades are. He's going to go back and study the tape. He hasn't had a chance to. He had a repairman coming in. And Greg has already mentioned what potential substitutions. Greg, are you doing the Swift Sports Network show on this Friday?
Yeah. We're doing like we usually it's supposed to be every other week, but we're doing it 3 weeks in a row. We did it last week. We did it Friday. We're doing it this week, and then we'll go back to every other week.
Excellent. Well, Greg will have had a chance to look at the tape, and so watch him on Swift Sports Network this Friday, and of course follow his articles at Windy City Gridiron. 10 wants to know, was Swift, TJ HB Swifty writes, was he a disappointment in his first game? I mean, his first run was, I think, a 4 or 5 yarder, and then his last run was about a 20-yarder, but in between,
but again, that was a running back. In most cases, was only as good as the blocking in front of him and what's there. And I said it earlier. Tennessee went into that game. Here's what their game plan was. Stop the run, keep Caleb Williams in the pocket, and make him throw from the pocket. Right. They did a hell of a job.
Yeah. And so that is the key to Sunday night's game is Velus has to complete passes from the pocket. That will then
Caleb.
My goodness. I need a nap. Caleb needs to complete some on-time passes from the pocket in order to open up the offense. And of course, the only way you do that is if your receivers don't drop the pass and the offensive line provides protection.
The offensive line's got to run block to the point where you can get some yards in the run game.
Yeah.
They had spurts where they did it. They didn't do it with any type of consistency.
Yep. Josh is asking you, do you think Flus should let Eric Washington call defensive plays? I thought he did a good job during the preseason switching things up.
No, I'll ask him the same question. Why would you do that after yesterday's game? They made adjustments in the way he called the game in the second half. Why would you even think of doing it?
Yeah, I think, for the most part, the game plan going in, which Flus develops with Eric Washington and others, I thought it was a solid game plan. And they made the adjustment once they saw they were running wide to go to that, wide 9 front. So I really don't have any complaints about the defense or the defensive coaching from yesterday's game.
Right. Well, it brings up a point.
Mm-hmm.
How is a game plan derived? How do you come about the game plan? Mm-hmm. And, you're meeting, you got some coaches. Now, they had that one coach last year. What was his name? Snow or something that, okay. Well, they got another guy doing the same thing this year. His name is Peace, but he's in the office.
Okay.
He's not like a part-timer. He's coached in the league. His dad was Dean Peace, who was one of the better defensive coordinators. He's retired now, one of the better defensive coordinators of the game for a lot of years. He's doing that job this year. So between him and the pro department, you're doing the advanced stuff, and you're at least a week ahead. Okay, so last week, those guys were working on Houston for this week because they're presenting everything that they present to the coaching staff today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's today you start. First thing you do this morning is you go through the game with your players, and then after that, and tonight, tomorrow night, Wednesday night are long nights at the office. You're putting together a game plan. Now, there's individual coaches that have certain jobs during the week. It's not just Flus and Eric Washington that come up with the game plan. There's, I think, John Hoke is the defensive passing game coordinator.
Yes.
So he's studying the passing game of each team. Now he's doing it in week. So, and then somebody else is looking at the run game, and then they all come together, and it's really kind of like a joint decision with Eric and Flus having the final say of exactly how they're going to do it.
Right.
But everybody's, and it works the same way in the on the offensive side when you're putting together an offensive game plan. It's not necessarily the coordinator. Certain guys have certain jobs to do during the week, and they're doing a lot of separate film time, and then they come together and meet, they discuss these things, and they develop the plan. And you try to have most of that plan done by tomorrow night, so Tuesday night, and then or at least the part that you got to introduce to the players on Wednesday, which, you separate. Wednesday is one type of practice, Thursday is a second type of practice, and Friday is a final type of. So you want to have those situations done for each practice because they do different things on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Yeah. Now, when you got a Thursday night game, then you got to do a lot of stuff the previous weeks, and a lot of your assistants got to be involved in that, doing a lot of work because you really only got one day to put everything together.
Greg, are days off over until after the holidays with
the coaches?
Yes, with the coaches.
Oh shit, yeah, man, they've been off. Haven't had a day off since the day training camp started.
Wow, so not a single day off. That's a tough business, man. Is it
long days? No, it's like, bye, honey.
Yeah.
Monday morning, you're home Sunday night.
Right.
On Monday morning, you leave to go to work. Bye, honey. I'll see you on Thursday.
Right.
You're not home for dinner.
Yep, indeed.
Flus said the other day, we'll dismiss the players at about 5:30 today. That's the players. The players go home 5:30, not the coaches.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been in the office, and I've been there sometimes as late as 10:30, 11, and they're still going hard.
Wow. That's unbelievable. And is it the same for scouts? In season, do the scouts have a day off to spend with family, or are they constantly grinding 6 days?
You're on the rope now. I can go back when I was with the Giants, and it caused a divorce. My first marriage, we were out either 10 days or 17 days in a row.
Oh,
so you're out 10, home like 2.5 to 3, out 17, home 3. And so, but when you're on the road, you're in some places you're at a school 2 days in a row, depending on how many prospects they have. And also depending if you're an area scout or an over-the-top scout. An over-the-top scout very rarely spends more than one day at a school because not looking at the whole group of prospects. He's looking at just the guys that are the upper echelon guys. But you're there, you got to get reports done and you got to get to the next place. It's like, you don't have a lot of time, man.
Yeah. That's wild. You know, the irony of your situation, your personal situation, is that with me, my wife today, I took her to the airport at 5 a.m. in the morning. She's going to be out of town for the next 15 days. That might save our marriage. All right, 2 quickies here to close the show.
Probably some exotic place.
Yeah,
right?
well, you know it. Of course, she's got an event in Hawaii for 15 days. Well. Yeah.
Too bad, Aldo. You lose.
And then the last 5 days, she spent purchasing a new wardrobe. I'm like, what the hell? I thought you were going to work. Why are you buying all these fancy clothes? I'm just kidding.
You got to have them for the trip to Hawaii.
That's what she said, right?
Earn that part, yeah.
Let's start with Gary. Why is the offensive line still a problem? The GM is an ex-offensive lineman himself, for God's sake. You know,
I'm going to go back to what he was saying, last week in the presser. He goes, I think it's the best group we've had since I've been here.
Because they've got some depth, but do they have starters?
They got outmanned. They got outhandled. And I think part of it had to do with, Bates and Jacobs. They missed a bunch of time in the preseason.
Yeah.
And I'm a believer that the starters played more than they did a year ago. They still didn't play enough. They didn't play the last game.
Have you said that earlier?
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
They should have played at least 2 series and probably a quarter.
Yeah. Evie said that the veterans should have played more, so she agrees with you. All right, the last question is this one from D Star, and you were talking about the amount of hours the coaching staff plays. So D asked the logical follow-up: is overthinking a problem with coaches? I mean, we've seen it with some coaches who burnt out, but can a coach perhaps overthink a game plan too much?
Guys who burned out are overgrinders. If you're going to be in this business, you are a grinder. It goes with the territory being in the business. So you got to like to work long hours. And a lot of times it's fun because you enjoy the game. I mean, you're working with football. So it's not like you got to, how there is with some jobs you keep looking at the clock. Oh, it's 3:15. I get to go home in, 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's 3:25. I only, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, and you're where I can honestly say this. I don't think I ever looked at the damn clock the whole time I was in the league because you're just you enjoy what you're doing. Yeah. So I'm not going to say the whole day you're there a long time that you're actually working. Always got a workout in. So that's an hour and a half anyway, and you get some time to eat. I mean, you got to rest your brain. Dan Reeves, when I worked with Dan Reeves, he did not want to work more than 2 hours at a time in a meeting or something. Yeah, then it was like, no, you got to have a break after that. Because he had talked to some people and some psychiatrists or psychologists and stuff, and they said that you got to give your brain a break. And then it might only be 10 or 15 minutes, but you gotta, you gotta do that. You can't be concentrating like that for more than a couple hours because your mind goes stale. I know when I watch tape, because I'm, I think that I probably had, going back, and they hadn't invented it yet when I was in school, but attention deficit. So nobody thought, it's like when my dad was in World War II, they didn't have post-traumatic stress syndrome either.
Right.
They had to make these things up. So, but I was not a good student because I couldn't be locked in doing that, one thing. When I watch tape, hour to an hour and a half, and I got to walk out the room. And even if it's just take a lap around the office, I got to do that and then come back in so I'm refocused. And it's still the same way now. And I watch tape every single day. I mean, I watched tape yesterday morning. I watched tape Saturday morning. I do it every single day. But I only can do so much before I got to take a break. Because once my mind starts to wander, then I know time to get up, go somewhere else.
Yeah. I think that's excellent analysis and advice. And Evie, she said that's why breath work is also a key to having a healthy mind to stay focused. And certain foods, like I've heard that almonds are like a brain food. You eat almonds as a snack, it really helps your brain function better. So there's a lot of research.
Know that with almonds.
Yeah. I started when I have to do something creative, I often will have, a handful of almonds nearby and pop them in, and it really does help, in my opinion. Helps me anyway. All right, that is our episode for today. Greg, fantastic job. I'm really looking forward to watching you with Swifty on Friday to get your thoughts on the offensive line. You and I will be back here next week. Do you want to do Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, no, Monday. Tuesday, I got the crew.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we're gonna do Monday every week. I thought, unless there's a game on Monday, in which case can't.
That's right. I keep thinking next game is.
And
Monday.
I'm the guy that has ADHD. Come
I got kicked in the head when I was a kid. I think that's the problem.
So you're not, your wife's gone, and your mind's already traveling. And so,
oh yeah, I know where the strip bar. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That is our episode. Mike North will be here at 3. So all of you negative naysayers who are in the chat,
oh God,
you got Mike
it's
North.
It's going to be the Mitch Trubisky special.
That's right. He's going to be here at 3 o'clock, presented by Raw Jewelers, those guys over at Hoffman States who will give you a great deal on that special present. When was the last time you bought jewelry for the business there, Greg?
Jewelry for my wife?
Yeah.
God, a long time ago. It's I pay for it. She picks up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even allowed to buy her clothes because it's like there's certain things she wants. You won't pay for it, yeah, but I pick everything. She picks everything out. This is what she.
Yeah, I haven't bought jewelry since the wedding ring. And that's enough jewelry. I paid so much for that damn ring. I said, that's enough jewelry to cover you for the rest of your life, sweetheart. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us live. And again, please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you all next week after the win against the Texans. Goodbye, everybody.
See you later. Thank you.